Canadians, how are you doing today? It's Monday, March 12th already. I'm here to talk to you today about copyright, intellectual property, and how on FlossTube and Instagram and anywhere that we talk about cross-stitch and knitting, we don't show patterns, and why we don't show patterns, and as far as I can understand, the reasons behind that. And this is just a little to back up the accurate reasons why. So, I have done some personal research. Please understand this is my little caveat that I am not a lawyer. I have no law school training whatsoever. I've never taken a law class. I've done my own personal research. Excuse me. I'm going to link all of my resources below so that if you are interested in questioning or reading up or doing any kind of further investigation on your own, you are more than welcome to begin a dialogue with me. And I will be right back. I need to get a drink of water. So please understand that if I say something wrong in this video, and you know something different, please don't attack me. Please just understand that this is the information that I have been able to gather, and that I have been asked to gather some information about why we do not show patterns on our videos, or why we should not show patterns on our videos and pictures on Instagram and Facebook. And therefore, this is the information I have been able to come up with. I have been able to get information from a number of sources. One is the library system of the university, I think it's University of Ohio, or is it Ohio State? The Ohio State University, which has a very, very thorough entry on their, I don't know if it's a blog or something, regarding patterns and copyright. So, first, I want to stress that the information I am going to provide is predominantly about the United States. Of course, every country in the world is going to have their own laws regarding copyright and intellectual property. So, if the information I'm going to provide is predominantly American because I'm an American, and this is the information I've been able to find. And of course, I don't have time to go and research 2,000 or 200 different countries and your intellectual property. But I will tell you that a lot of them are probably going to be very similar, because in 1886, there was the Berne Convention. And that Berne Convention established a minimum protection for copyright and intellectual property. So, and I do say that all countries will have their own laws. The EU, I do believe, European Union, has a collective. So as the European Union, I'm not sure how the governments work over there in the EU. You guys are your own entity of countries. So I believe the EU has their own laws that all the countries have to fall under for copyright and intellectual property. So let's first go over the definitions of what intellectual property and copyright are. So intellectual property is the overarching definition of what, it's the overarching category of knowledge, of art, it's works of the mind. So it could be art, music, logos, images, inventions, all of these different things that an individual can create using their mind. So that is what intellectual property is. So within intellectual property, you have three different categories. You have copyright, trademark, and patent. So we all know, well, most of us all know, because they stress it in science class in elementary school, that a patent is protection for inventors whenever they come up with a new invention or a new innovation. So very similar to a patent, a trademark is protection of a logo or a symbol. So, McDonald's, the golden arches is a trademark. So we can't go and steal that or we will get in trouble. So very much like patents and trademarks, copyright is the protection of original authorship for writings, music, anything that can be written down, software. And I was surprised in my research to find out even architecture can be copyrighted. So you better not go and build an Empire State Building and not get permission first. Actually, you might be allowed to do that now, because that might actually be grandfathered into the, what is that called now? Patience. Not eminent domain. It's the, you're probably all yelling at me right now. Public domain. Public domain. Why couldn't I come up with that? But so you better not go and steal a brand new building's design and build one of your own, because then you could actually get in trouble, because it is not. We'll get into all that. So copyright is protection of any of these things: writing, music, art, software, architecture, from the moment it is created until 70 years past the creator's death. So the designer, the writer, the author, the musician. So it's from the moment that it's written until the 70 years past the moment of death of that individual. So let's say a song written by Dolly Parton. The moment that she wrote the song, it was immediately copyrighted, because there's no requirement for filling out a form or anything. They do suggest to be protected so that you get some legal backing, that you back it up with you register with the government, but you do not have to do that. It is not required to be copyright protected. So from the moment that Dolly Parton wrote "I Will Always Love You," it was it was eligible for copyright until 70 years past her death. And of course, she's still alive, so it is still copyright eligible. Now, I do believe she sold those rights, because then Whitney Houston was able to sing the song, but you know what I'm getting at. Okay. So again, copyright automatically exists. You do not have to register. Now, again, this is the United States. You do not have to register, but it is strongly suggested, just so you have that legal backing. So it's just a little bit easier to press charges, I guess, or to fight it if need be. So those are the definitions of copyright, trademark, patent, and intellectual property. So now we're going to look at patterns and copyright. So this is really the nitty-gritty of what we're looking at here when it comes to cross stitch and knitting and all these other needle arts that we do on FlossTube. So with our patterns, according to what I've been able to find, patterns are not generally eligible for copyright, and that is because there's a provision within the copyright laws that say that methods or the procedures for doing, making, or building things are not eligible. So if you have a list of directions on how to build something, that is not copyright eligible, because it's written in the provisions. However, there's also, if you have a pattern that becomes a utilitarian object, so you have a pattern, say it's a pattern to create a bag. So you're doing some sewing and you're creating a bag, like Caroline does with her Evertote, then that pattern is no longer eligible for copyright because it is being used to create a useful object. So the chair that I am sitting on cannot be copyrighted. Now, if you stitch a design, a one-of-a-kind design into the bag that you made, then that stitch design that's a one-of-a-kind would be allowed to be copyrighted, would be eligible for copyright because it is one of a kind and it is not enhancing the usefulness of the bag. I really hope this is why it's so challenging to understand copyright, because it's just the government makes it complicated. So if it has a pattern, it is really not eligible to be copyrighted because of the provision. However, now this is where it gets to be. Within digital patterns, you now have where you go onto Etsy or you go onto a person's website and you download their digital PDF pattern. You might have to click on the box that says you agree to all of this fine print. In that case, then you must follow that fine print, because then you are agreeing to, you're basically signing a contract saying that you agree to it. So while the copyright might not be enforceable, there may be some other form of contract that you may be signing by clicking a box, by providing payment, any kind of, as long as there's writing. So you need to make sure that you follow the fine print just like you do anywhere else in the world. Now, understanding that even though patterns may not be eligible for copyright, just because it's legal to share or to show doesn't mean it's right to do. And that's really what I want to stress with this. Just because, for example, even though it's legal to drive 65 miles an hour on the highway, when it's raining and snowing and freezing rain, doesn't mean it's right to do. So ethics plays a big role in this. And I think that's really the important part as to why, as floss tubers, as people who participate on Instagram and YouTube groups, that to be respectful of the craft and the art that we do, and to support those that we enjoy having their designs, we need to be respectful of their patterns and their livelihoods, because it's not an easy thing to design and then see it being flashed all over the internet. So much like musicians back in the turn of the 21st century, whenever they were fighting the uphill battle with illegal downloads, it's very similar in that aspect, as we want to be as professional as possible and not share those patterns. And even if it is a tiny bit, because those people worked long and hard to make that pattern, and if somebody wants that, they should have to go and purchase it. So, with that being said, that was a 15-minute expedited definition and version of intellectual property, copyright, trademark, and patents. Please let me know if you have any other questions or if I did not clarify something very well. I still myself am learning about this. I learned a whole lot while reading over these websites. I will link all the pages below that I found this information on. And again, please understand that I am not a professional in this field. This is just the research that I have done, and that I hope this is meaningful to you, and that if you'd like to see more of this type of stuff, I would be glad to do the research, glad to put this out for discussion. And I think that's what we need to have, is discussion. Meaningful, open, understanding, two-sided, positive discussion. So feel free to leave comments below if you have any other questions, comments, concerns, and I will see you in my next video. Enjoy those stitches.